Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Accessibility Savvy. I'm Crystal Preston-Watson, Accessibility Engineer. This video is the first in a two-part series on iOS and Android development environments for mobile accessibility testing. Today's video will be covering Android Studio, and part 2 will cover Xcode. These videos will show you how to use development environments to emulate devices and available tools for testing native or web applications for accessibility. You won't need to do any coding or know any particular language. You will also have a viable option to conduct mobile accessibility testing without setting up a physical device lab or using a cloud testing platform. Essential for those working on teams and initiatives with tight budgets. And with that, let's get started. The first thing we want to do is get Android Studio installed on our machines. You can download Android Studio on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. I am on a MacBook Pro. There's a link where you can download it in the video description. Just note that Studio is a robust program, so if you notice that it's running slow, you might want to close other programs you have running. During a practice run for this video, I somehow had Studio, Xcode, Photoshop, and OBS all open. I am really amazed that my computer just didn't game over on me. Since I already have it installed, I am just going to open Studio. Notice the cute little Arctic fox. So here is the welcome screen. If you're testing a native app, here is where you would open your project files if you have them. Unfortunately, I don't have a working app beyond a Hello World, but to utilize the device emulator, we have to work out of a project. So let's just create a new project using a basic template. I have never used Android Studio for anything other than testing phones and tablets, so anything I say in this video is my knowledge about those devices. You can, on this side here in the sidebar, you can see there are templates for wearable OS, Android TV, and automotive. On this screen, the most important thing is the minimum SDK field. This is where you'll select the version of the Android operating system you want to run. If you don't see the version you need, you probably don't have it installed. So let's take a look at how to do that now. And before I'm actually going to have, I'm going to select Android 12, but we'll take a look. Also, just want to note before we take a look at how to install the SDK, in this screen, it actually will tell you, depending on what version that you choose, how many devices that application will run on. So this is very helpful if you're testing a native application. It's not so much really that useful for if you're testing a mobile web application. But if you click on here, that link, it'll actually break down the numbers of what, what share of the Android market each version has currently. So that's really cool. Okay, so let's finish this. Close out of there. Okay, so right now it's building the template project. But what we can do is actually go up to Tools, and then we want to select the SDK Manager. On this screen, you'll choose a version of Android that you want for testing. Currently, I have Android 12 and 11, but as you can see, you can download versions as far back as 2.1. I will warn against downloading all of these in one go because that will take up a lot of space. I tend to have one or two versions installed and switch them as needed. For this video, I'm going to stick to the versions I have and not download any new ones. But if you wanted to download, because you're obviously new to Android Studio, all you would need to do is just click on the version you want, and then it'll put a download icon next to it. And before you hit OK, you actually want to go into the SDK Tools tab. Here, you want to make sure that the Google Play services is checked. And they all are. Google Play is important because it'll allow us to download Google's accessibility suite tools, including TalkBack and the accessibility scanner. You can get TalkBack on the emulator without Google Play, but it's a little bit more involved. It requires you to generate an APK file, which you can install on the emulated device. If you're testing on versions 6.0 and earlier, Google Play isn't available. For the life of me, I could not get TalkBack to build without errors. I wanted to show you how to build a APK file and get TalkBack onto your emulator without the accessibility suite. But it kept giving me errors. I'm not an Android dev, so my limited knowledge did not help. But I will be posting a supplemental video on installing it once I get the build issues figured out. I'm going to also note here, some sites also have the APK file for Accessibility Suite and Scanner for download, but I could only find the build files for TalkBack directly from Google, so it's definitely a huge user beware if you choose to go that route. I will, however, link to Google's GitHub repo for TalkBack. But for now, we're going to stick with Google Play to get those tools on your device. So I'm not going to download a new one, so uncheck that. But if you would hit OK, it would take a few moments to build, probably around a minute, depending on how fast your machine is. So now we have the Android version on our device downloaded that we want to use. We're going to go back up to Tools and select the AVD Manager. So this is where we're going to create our actual virtual device, our emulator. So here, select the Create Virtual Device button. And now we have the screen where we will choose our hardware. I am going to create a Pixel 4. And again, you're going to want to create a device that has Google Play enabled. And you can tell that it has Google Play enabled for that device. And if you, in the Play Store column, there you can see the icon for the Google Play Store. Oh, before I go, you can also I know I said I'm only really talking about phones, and I've done stuff for tablets, though again that requires downloading the APK files because, as you can see, with tablets, it doesn't. I actually don't think you can get the Google Play for any of the versions, but you can emulate different hardware here. So this is where we're going to select our system image. I am going to just stick with Android 11 right here. There are other images and I don't know much too much about all of this. Like why you would choose a, and so I'm not going to go deeply into it. A lot of times when I've done this in the past, I'm usually working with a developer. So if there was any special like requirements for me when I was testing a native application, I would talk to them to see how I need to set up my device. But if there's not, just kind of keep to the default settings. Cool. This is the verify configuration screen. Again, you don't need to change anything here unless you have a specific requirement. And let's just select finish. Now we have our virtual device. So now we will start up the device, and before I do that, just kind of a little of a deviation. If you're testing a native application, you actually would want to start the device from the main screen, where it would just run the application for you. Going from the virtual device manager, clicking on under actions and click in and launching the device will just kind of take you to the home page. But if you go from the main screen and run it from there, it'll start up the emulator and then directly run your application. And just like a actual Android device, it will now it's going to boot up. So it may take a few moments to do that. Okay, so now we need to sign into the Google Play Store and get our accessibility tools installed. Before I do that, I want to show you the default accessibility settings. So here you have things like magnification, um, dark theme, which I'm actually going to enable because with my visual impairments, dark theme really is it is something that I really need to have on. So I'm going to just put that on right now. We also have, it means to go that fast, but we also have high contrast. And if you go into under the experimental settings, we have color correction, color inversion, um, and it's a good, you have a good amount of settings already installed on the phone. But if you need, you know, and there is a kind of a default screen reader, but for things like TalkBack and other more kind of newer and I don't want to say advanced, but more newer accessibility features, you need the accessibility suite. So I'm going to sign into Google Play, and you're going to notice an edit here because I usually forget my test count password. So it takes a few minutes for me to sign in. And you don't need to watch me struggle. So I'll see you after the edit. Okay, we're back. Now we want to download both the accessibility suite and the scanner. It's it's going to be the same process if you were to do this on an actual device. Okay, the suite is now downloaded. And now we're gonna do the scanner. And just to make sure, when you're doing this, make sure you're getting the scanner and the suite that is put out by Google. There might be some apps in the Google Play Store that are made to look like they're, you know, the same app, but they're not. So just that important note. And we're waiting. Usually it doesn't take this long, but I wonder, this could be my internet becoming slow. Okay, cool. Okay, let's go back to the accessibility settings and I'll show you um, what has what is also now installed. Ah, you also get to see me struggle with the. Okay, so we can see now that we have TalkBack. We also have switch access. So this is for individuals that will need to control their their phone with a switch device. So we now have access to that. The accessibility scanner, which we downloaded as well. The select to speak. And this is where you can, as it says, you can tap specific items on your screen to hear them read out loud. So we have, we have some additional accessibility features. Also, the accessibility menu. And so if I were to cut this on, it will actually put a very great menu up. So it allows you to access different accessibility settings and features in a very large and easy to see for me and navigate menu. So just want to note that some of these tools may not be available in older versions of Android. However, the TalkBack should be included. I haven't really gone back to Android 2.1. There are some there are some newer features like live caption and live transcript that are not available. I don't from in my research, I don't think they're available to use in the emulator at this point in time. But if that changes or if I find out differently, I'll either put some addendums in the video descriptions, or actually, I'll just probably make another kind of short video showing you how to get those onto your emulator. So now, pretty much you are all set to start testing as you would do on an actual device. I'm going to say, and as you saw a little bit earlier, it does take some use, some getting used to touch gestures. Um, if you're on a MacBook and you're using the Magic Mouse, I find it a bit fuzzy. It's a similar problem if you are familiar with Google Slides, leaping multiple slides forward and backward on the on the Mac when you're using the Magic Mouse. I recommend using a touchpad or a keyboard to navigate. I'm actually using the touchpad right now. So the main focus of this series is just getting you set up with a mobile testing environment. So while I won't be showing you how to test in these series of videos, I, however, do want to showcase the accessibility scanner in this video right now, just because when I talk about this particular application, I find that a lot of people don't know it exists. So I just want to show you it's uh, a pretty useful tool. And this app will scan your screen and provide suggestions to improve accessibility based on content labels, touch target size, clickable items, text, and image contrast. Of course, the scanner can't and shouldn't be used to replace other manual tests, but it is a helpful supplemental tool that you can utilize. So on our home screen, we just need to tap the accessibility scanner icon, and then you're gonna go through a few steps to give the app some required permissions. So when the circle icon with the check mark appears, it means you're ready to go. Now you can either open up your app that you're testing, or use the mobile browser to go to the site, your web application. But for here, I'm actually going to open up Google Maps and use it. So let's go to Paris. Awesome. I I'm in Denver, but I didn't want to I I wanted to go. I haven't done much traveling in the last year of obviously. So at least I can go traveling in my demo here. So tap on the scanner icon, and you'll need to give it even more permissions for it to like record your screen. You can either take a snapshot and scan one screen, or record and scan a series of screens. I'm gonna take just a snapshot. Once it's finished, the app will give you some suggestions that you can go through either via the snapshot or list form. And so here is the list. And as you can see, it'll actually show you where, like, in the application code, you can find the element where it has some suggestions for. And as you can see, it's very limited in what it gives you suggestions about fixing. So this is item description. Element 2 is image contrast, and also element 3. Let's go. And so you can also navigate using the actual visual screenshot. So here it shows you exactly what element it is pinpointing on. This is another image contrast and another image contrast. As I said earlier, you only get tips on a few elements, so this isn't something you can rely on for robust testing on its own. That's it for this video. In part 2, I'll be taking you through Xcode. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and also think about subscribing to my channel. You don't have to, but I think it's a requirement to say at the end of all YouTube videos. You can also find me on Twitter at Scopic Engineer. Until next time.